Everybody ready? Can everybody see the screen okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good morning, Trinity. Welcome to the review of the 2021 Trinity Lutheran Church budget.
Woohoo.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah. Fanfare.
I wonder if I should go into an aria or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Uh, this front sheet is the roll-up of all the detail that we've looked at. It compares the 2020 budget to the 2020 budget. And probably a significant factor you can see in the comments is this year we faced a unique challenge due to the impacts of COVID. It has had a significant impact on 2020, which you'll see more of when we get to another one of the slides here. And we'll have a carryover impact into 2021. It's really difficult to forecast, but we've had the experience of 2020, which will help us kind of, it is helping to guide us for 2021. On the, just comparing 2021 to 2020 budget, we anticipate 68,500 less in receipts, $1,022,450 versus $1,090. Expense side, we expect to spend less by 70,000. And bottom line, we're at 1,545 versus 1,299. That's our net income after we pay the principal debt on our mortgage. So that's the overview, and we'll get into more of the detail shortly. The key elements of doing this budget is we start off with I get the August financials, and we start at that point in probably the middle of September, and we send out the template to each of the different ministries and say, okay, here's what your budget was for 2020. This is what's been spent to date for 2020. Give us your budget for 2021. So then we get back the input from each of the different ministries with their forecasted budget. In some cases, we get some narratives. And then from that, I then go into Portico and look at the staff that are receiving benefits and develop a pro forma as to, based on the program that we're on, what benefits will we need to pay based on the salaries of the staff that are included in the benefits. The other step that goes into it is looking at the amortization schedule based on an assumed interest rate, based on the anticipated level of the mortgage at the end of this year, schedule it out, the principal and interest over 2021. Then plugging all those things, I update the budget template with the ministry forecasts and the benefits reforecast and the amortization schedule, and then go to the executive committee and then the council to review the draft budget. And so we went to the council meeting October 18th, and we noted that there was a major shortfall of about 110,000, and a lot of that is due to impacts, and you'll see where that occurs. So following that, we talked with the council, and Pastor Chris and Mike Schuritz and the staff met and talked about, okay, we know there's going to be continuing impacts of COVID into 2021. Let's really look at the expenses. We're thinking that the first half anyway of 2021 is going to be pretty similar to what we faced in 2020. So put that into your thinking, and then relook at what your expenses are, because typically what we'll do is we'll more closely look at budget to budget and somewhat tweak it depending on what the actual expenses are, and where we see significant swings, then it you may adjust accordingly. But in this case, because it's such a significant impact to COVID, we really needed to relook at our expenses and I won't say get out our crystal ball, but do the best we can to forecast for 2021. So as a result of that and additional input from each of the different ministries and the preschool, we came back with a revised budget, which you're pretty much seeing in front of you, that we presented at the November 15th meeting. The next step is to present the draft budget today to the congregation. And then the next step following that is we have to, by our bylaws, our constitution, we have to, the council has to approve the budget by December 15th. And then we'll, as you all may recall, the congregation gets the opportunity to approve the final budget in the January meeting. Okay. So I felt that normally we'll look at this screen, which is the comparison of budget to budget. But I think first we'll look at what happened in what we anticipate happening in 2020.
I'll listen.
So in looking at the budget to actuals, you can see that overall the anticipated receipts are $1,047,000 versus a budget of $1,090,000. So we're 43,801 below. We're forecasting that we're going to be below the budgeted receipts. And the big players are the member giving. We're forecasting that we will be about 63,000 below budget on the giving. And we've been tracking below budget on the giving most of the year, and I'm anticipating, we're forecasting that probably November, December will be a little under. And we talked with Morris about it, and he says, well, there's some annual givers that could give us a boost in December, and then there's always that question in December, what is actually going to come in. But for this forecast, we're trying to be conservative and look at the trends for the year to date, and that's what we're forecasting. That reflects an anticipation of about 100,000 for November, the combination of November and December, so an average of 50,000 per month. The budget for December is something like 65,000. So you can see we're being conservative there, and my hope is we beat it. The fundraisers and loose basket, that's lower by 14,000, and probably the single biggest impact on that is that we did not have a garage sale, and typically we raise 12, 13,000 each year on that, so that's the biggest driver of that. Preschool, we're forecasting that will be 89,000 below budget, and obviously due to COVID, we've had to cut the classes basically in half, and therefore the tuitions are reduced, and we're projecting 89,539 reduction in tuitions for 2020. And then the rental and income, we've closed, basically we've closed our facility to outside rentals, and that's the single biggest impact there. We have overall rentals and other income sources, a budget of 48,000. We're anticipating 17,629. So that's a drop. So if you look at just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, you're almost at 200,000. That's 198,000 below budget. The good news is the CARES Act came up with the PPP funding, and in I'm trying to think of when the timing of that. It was around early April,
Hey, early,
March, April, somewhere.
late April, early May, I think.
Okay. Anyway, Morris gave me a call. He says, "Hey, what do you think about this PPP funding, the CARES Act? You think we ought to go for it?" And initially I said, "Well, let's take a look at it, review it and so forth." And then I think he had contacted our bank, and the word was, if we're going to take action, we need to do it quick. And Morris and I talked, and I think Mike was in the loop as well. We just said, "Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do the application." We went ahead and applied for 154,490, and the bank has approved our application. We'll just say that we're still waiting on. They're all subject to a final federal audit, but our initial feedback was that we did receive the 154,000. We did, it's cash in our bank, and but we're waiting on the final federal audit.
And that's if they reserve the right to audit. We don't know that they are.
Right. So that helped to offset quite a bit of our shortfall in our revenue. And then, so the next part of the story is just looking at our expenses. And this also helped us. You can see the 930,000 versus $1,045,000. So we're forecasting to be 115,000 under expenses. And there's a couple of key places. I mean, every ministry, basically, because of the lower level of activity this year, has pretty much had some savings. A couple of significant savings we realized in the facilities. We have 34,000 anticipated savings, and the biggest piece of that is HVAC repairs. Sometimes that is in the area of 20 to 30,000 that we spend on that to keep our HVAC equipment, heating and cooling equipment, in good shape, or repairs and so forth. Fortunately, we made it through the summer and the fall, and knock on wood, no major repairs. Missions, right now we're forecasting a savings of 11,000. And we're holding, Kathy, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to get back with you to talk about this, but if the funding and so forth turns out better as we get into November, December financials, and we have better results, we'll let you know, that there is cash available to do additional support for missions.
Steve, just a quick question on that. So that 11,700, is that a combination of like MOPS and Synod donations and all that sort of thing?
It's mostly the Synod. There's the Synod piece right now. We're forecasting that we're going to pay the full amount of the Synod.
Okay.
And I think there's a portion of MOPS that does make up the 11,000, but the balance would be other missions.
Because at this point in time, that's why I wanted to sync with you, and we can talk more offline if we need to, but at this point in time, of the funds that the mission team.
So Steve, is it your thought that if more revenue comes in, that's where it's going to go first?
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Sure, that's fine. So of the funds that the mission team manages, we actually have just a little over 3,800 that have not been expended. Some of those expenditures were agreed to, but probably not processed until, not too long ago. I know at our last mission team meeting, Pastor Chris had mentioned that, we had been asked to, not disperse what had not already been, agreed to. So but we can sync
Yeah,
offline
well,
if we need to.
we'll need to sync that up. Yeah, there may be some delay in some of that,
Right.
and and it won't be long before we have the November actuals, and we'll better be able to identify exactly where we are. My suspicion too, Kathy, is that there has been some donations going toward missions that might be offsetting the actual expense.
True. Good point. Yeah. Good point. Okay.
Okay. Okay, on the preschool expenses, that's primarily driven by less payroll expense. There's a certain minimum, we need to have 2 teachers, but 2 teachers per classroom, even though we've cut the student participation down to 50%. But even so, the supplemental, the hourly help and so forth has been reduced substantially. And that's all contributed to a reduction in the preschool. So you can see that we've got an offset, a revenue of almost 90,000, but a reduction in expense of 35,000. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of that, you can't get the corresponding reduction because you still have to, by state requirements and so forth, you need to at least have 2 teachers per classroom for preschool. The music accounts, there's been some savings there. And each of these different ministries, there's been savings, like I said earlier, just due to COVID impacts, reduced level, and so forth. The miscellaneous other, that was, we had some old expenditures at the end of 2019 rolling into 2020, where we assessed that, and Kathy Hafferkamp helped us with evaluating that, and we wrote off about $13,000 worth of old expenses that weren't going to happen. So that benefited us. So when all is said and done, we're forecasting a net operating income of 116,756. The debt service that's paying down the principal of the mortgage, about 45,000, gets us to the net income after debt of 71,000. And I felt like there's still some questions out there, like mission, or whatever variables we have. I don't know what impacts potentially could happen between now and the end of the year with COVID. I mean, it's just so. We just said let's hold money and right now be conservative and say we think that we'll have a 60,000 surplus at the end of this year. Okay. So then, taking that all into consideration, this is our 2021 budget versus 2020, and you can see that we've reduced the anticipated member giving by 18,500, and that's just based on the 2020 trends that we're seeing and potential. We think there is some potential impact from COVID. The fundraisers and Loose Basket, I mean, we're hoping that we still have a garage sale. Hopefully, we get the vaccine and we can have our garage sale and some of the other fundraisers. The preschool, that 90,000, that may look pretty close to what you recall seeing as the results, what we're forecasting for
in the year.
For the year. Going back to the other screen, we're about right around 90,000 reduction. So it's kind of a similar scenario, anticipating that, certainly for the first 6 months, that we're, going to have reduced income there. The rental and other income, we're saying, well, especially the rental facilities, that's anticipated about 40,000. That's typically what we budget. And we said, let's just cut that in half, assuming that the first half of the year, we're not going to be renting out our facility. So this is something that we talked about, and I said, we're going to have a surplus. We're forecasting a surplus of 60,000 due to the PPP funding. And so he said, that's intended to address the COVID impacts and so forth. And we're going to definitely have a COVID impact rolling into next year. So why not take that surplus, that we have at the end of the year and roll that over into 2021.
Yeah, Steve, can I make one comment on that?
Sure.
So typically what that would happen when we have a surplus at the end of the year, we would roll it into council discretionary funds, which would become available to us anyway. But we thought it best to designate whatever we have as surplus in 2020 officially by council vote designated as rollover for 2021.
Right. Okay. Then on the expense side, we're projecting or forecasting for 2021, 975,432 versus 2020's budget of $1,045,000. So a 70,000 reduction, forecasted reduction in expenses. And this is, again, we're hoping that due to COVID, I think there's going to be a similar path that we're going to have a lower activity, especially over the first half of the year. So some of the different ministries, we're forecasting to expend less, and we're also looking at, and we asked each ministry is what's need to have versus you'd like to have, and that was part of the thinking that went into this. The facility savings, we're still holding money there for HVAC repairs and so forth. I think we're holding 15,000 or so for that, and we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. The preschool, we're anticipating a 34,000 reduction in salaries, and we kind of went through, well, what are we currently experiencing? And we looked at the payrolls in September and October and said, well, let's use that sort of as a template or a model for next year. And so we forecast about 34,000 in reduced salaries for the preschool. And so overall, that gets us to the 70,000 reduction in expenses. So we're forecasting a net operating income of 47,018 versus 45,014, 2,000 for benefit there, but that'll be offset because we're going to pay down more of our principal. And like every other mortgage, as the years go on, you're paying more toward the principal. So that's being offset by $1,758. That nets us to a net income after debt of $1,545 versus the $1,299 that we had budgeted for this year. So, any questions?
Not a question, Steve, but I would just like to express my appreciation to you and council for maintaining the level of missional support on the financial side. So greatly appreciate that.
Well, it's something we all hold dear. It's, part of our Trinity mission, I guess, to support missions.
And understand, Kathy, it's not unprecedented. We've done it in the past. But as the year goes on, and there's something that comes up that we feel is absolutely necessary to do. Maybe you remember, that money we pulled out for Lantern Hill a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
We have a
Yeah.
special scenario, a special case. You know, we've got, it's within the council's purview with a special request like that to allocate funds out of discretionary to take care of something. So even though that you've got a budget that way, if something unique or something necessary really came up, there's other options for us to approach.
right. And
Yeah.
again, appreciation. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to let everybody know, we have currently sitting on the balance sheet, we have 72,000 in the discretionary account. And so that can be a stopgap if something happens,
Something surprises us.
surprises us. We also have a separate account for our mission investment fund that's about 29,000. It's a investment that was started, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. And it's just an account, it's an investment fund that's just sitting there that's available should we need it. To date, we've never tapped that fund as far as I know. And so it's just good to know that, you know, we have over 100,000 in reserves there.
Yeah, we got 12, there's another 12,000 in capital reserve as well. Right?
Correct.
And then there's $30,000 almost in the cemetery fund. So there's cash there.
Yeah.
None of these figures include capital campaign or endowment fund, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Those are all separate,
They're treated separately, completely separately.
right?
And from what, you know, as of the October financials, the capital campaign had a net balance of about a little over 12,000. But in looking at the Weir report, the last couple weeks, I saw in 1 week, we had 142,000 come in for the capital campaign. And then the other week, it looked like, the following week, it looked like there was another 20,000 or so. So 160 plus 12. So I think we're probably in the area of 170,000 and that I know of that has come in. And we have commitments on the capital campaign of 750 to 800,000, something like that. Mike?
Yeah, it's between 750 and
800. The endowment fund is, let's see, where the endowment fund is currently about 340,000. And we're hoping to get to 350. That was the target, right, Paul? Wanted to get over 350. So we welcome, I'm a liaison to the endowment committee. And as you may know, I was previously also a chairman and just like to see that baby continue to increase to support future missions.
And Emily brings up a good point. You know, we know that at some point by year end, we expect some influx from the endowment for missions, and typically it's been missions and also some level of facility support. So we never plan that into the budget because it's specifically said that we can't and shouldn't, but we know those funds are coming to us as well to help offset some other expenses. Is that a fair statement, Steve?
Yeah. I mean, it won't, we vote on it and it ends up being a disbursement in 2021.
Yep.
So. Any other questions? I see Ron. How you doing?
Good. On the member giving for 2021, the 620,000, what are you forecasting 2020 to be?
638.
That's
No,
about,
actually, we're forecasting it to be
I'm sorry, that was last year's forecast. I'm sorry, that was
Okay.
last year's budget. I'm sorry.
forecasting it to be about 575.
okay,
Okay.
all right. But
So,
when we get into attendance in 2021, on-site, services, that should pick up.
Yes.
That's what we're hoping, Ron.
We
And
we didn't think it was right to just flatline it across. We expect something to happen by mid-year, so.
Yeah.
We hope it'll bounce back up.
Yeah. In the presentation for 2021, though, I mean, we really are projecting a loss, net income after debt, a loss of 60,000, 58,000.
Well, yeah, about that 58 something.
Yeah. So we've got our work cut out for us in terms of increasing the member giving and somehow in 2022, adjusting things out, expenses, balancing expenses and revenues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2022 is going to be the challenge if we don't have a significant surplus in 2021.
Yeah.
that's a good observation,
And Ron, you know, as well as Steve and I do, right? This is something that's been a downward trend year over year. And at some point in time, at some point in time, we're going to have to do something different.
Here's some of the history on the actual giving. 2016, we're at 707,000, 217, 665, 2018, 630,000, and 2019, 618,000, which is pretty close to the 620 that we're forecasting for next year. But it is obviously it's being optimistic that things will be more favorable in 2021.
And just
Oh.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, and I probably should know this, but so does the decline in actual giving kind of coincide with the membership level to a certain extent? I mean, are there correlations between that, I would think? I know our membership has kind of started going up, but then we have the whole COVID thing to throw in there too and everything.
Yeah. You know, I don't know that we've ever really looked at it that way, have we, Steve? More
Well,
better than we would.
There was a decline in membership 2017, 2018 timeframe that I think did impact us some.
Yep.
The overall giving. Now 2019 and 2020, we've had some newer families. I think we've had a net gain the last 2 years. Right.
Last year, the net gain of about, I've got the data, 9. I don't know what it's going to be this year.
Yeah.
It seems like we've had a lot of funerals.
Yes, that's true.
That's true. And some, unfortunately, some dedicated members who were very faithful in donating on the member giving. Some of them, pretty sizable donations. So it's something that you hope is replaced by the new givers.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we went from, I'll just some comments from the annual report in 2019. We gained, looks like we gained 5 households and 10 members.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what the net is this year,
No, but so I guess the only point I was trying to make is that we did not decline from 2019, from the beginning of 2019 to the end of 2019.
Right. But I really think that I've been buoyed by the support from the executive team, the council, and the staff. I think everybody's really, we've really worked as a team to get to this point of the budget, and we'll continue doing that to finalize it.
Steve, before we get away, I just want to, ladies and gentlemen, you just don't know what an effort it is to get this done. And 95% of it falls on Steve, and it's fallen on him for the past 4 years. And it's the integrity, the professionalism, and the level of detail that he does has just been exemplary. And I just want to thank him again for the last 4 years of his work on this. It's an amazing piece of work. I appreciate it greatly, as does all the executive committee and pastor and council.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Well, looking forward to wrapping up year 4. You're
Well,
passing the baton.
Pass the baton. Pass the choir book.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank
Have a good
you.
rest of the day.